Right, organic. This is not the organic that people say their food is organic, when they mean that it's not been sprayed with pesticides or with only certain types of pesticides. Organic in this case simply means carbon-based compounds. Oops. These are compounds that contain carbon. Okay, and we've got several different types. They fall into several categories.
That was good.
Okay, they fall into these four main categories. There are a few extra, but just for our purposes, these are the four we're dealing with. Okay, we've got alkynes, alkenes, alkanes, and alcohols. Those are your four. Alkenes, and these are all covalently bonded, just for the record. They have single bonds. Wow. Between the carbons. This has at least one double bond. Between carbons. These have at least one triple bond. Between carbons, these and OH group. By the way, there are other categories of organic compounds besides these four. Just be aware, there's actually a much longer list. But for introductory purposes, these are the ones that I am going to cover. Does that make sense so far? Okay. I don't want to overwhelm you. There's a long, brutal list. And if you ever take oeconometry, or we call it OChem in college, you'll get the full gamut of the things. And they'll want you to be able to identify each one of them, each type. All right, alkenes, alkenes, alkynes, and alcohols. Now, when they're naming these, you can tell what they are based off of the ending of the word that you're looking at. Hexane, the ANE, tells you it is a alkane. This is the ANE. Okay. You've got this thing called butane. Okay. There again as the ANE. That tells you it's got single bonds. It's an alkane. Alkane, sorry. Then you've got alkene. Flip over here. Ethene. There again, you look at the ending. that has an ENE ending. That tells you there's a double bond in there. There's methanol, I would like to look up one, let me look up a real one for you, so I can give you a, so I can make anything up, because it doesn't make it real. Ethene. Or propene. That one has a YNE, tells you it has a double bond, and alcohol. Methanol has the OL. By the way, if you look at this methanol, it also has an AN, which means it also has single bonds, but it has an OH group on it. Mind you, this is just the very, very simple basics. It's a lot more complicated in naming them than this. I'm not gonna have you guys name them, I'm gonna have you be able to identify what they are by looking at the name. Does that make sense? Okay, because when you go to name it, it gets hairy, okay? We'll go more into that when you're in chemistry. Any questions on the basics? ANE, single bond, ENE, double bond, YNE, triple bond, OL, OH group, okay? That's what qualifies an alcohol, as an OH group on there. And by the way, all the alcohols all tend to be poisonous, just so you're aware. There is a type that you can drink, but if you drink the other ones, you'll go blind. Alright, we're good on the very basics on these. Okay, I just want you to be aware this is a huge subject. We're literally just giving you a very loose sketch. Okay? Next type of organic compounds that we're talking about are called polymers. Any idea what a polymer is? Poly means many, okay? There's going to be many of something on this. In this case, there's a many many carbons in this chain. Okay, so polymers. Right, so they're long chains of molecules linked together, usually carbon-based. Examples: plastics, oh, not sure why I did that. Guess I should put an I and then do this. Okay. Examples are plastics. Slime. How many of you guys have eaten Jell-O? Okay, that's also a polymer. It's just edible. Nylon, polyester, those are all types of plastics, all man-made. Those are all polymers. Very interesting things in there. Some of them are biodegradable, some are not. And there are some that occur naturally in nature, and others are artificial. I think you guys probably figured that out. I think that's all I need to say about that one. There are more details in your book, if you wish. How many of you guys seen those packing peanuts? Those are made of starch, actually. Which is kind of interesting, which is why they degrade. So much fun. The biodegradable, it's not the styrofoam ones. The styrofoam ones are still made of a polymer. They're just of a plastic, they don't biodegrade. Okay. Good so far. Like I said, these are very broad topics. You literally could do a PhD on just one of these things. Just be aware of that, okay? Lots and lots of detail, lots and lots of things to learn. All right, number three, sorry. Biochemical compounds. May I erase this? Just give myself some more space. These are what you find in living organisms. And they gave us 3 main categories that they're looking at. First one is carbohydrates. I've got to make sure I'm spelling this right, I'm so sorry. C-R-O-B. You guys have heard about carbohydrates before, right? Because that's what fuels our body. They're made of basically glucose chains, or chains of glucose, and sugars. So this includes sugars and starches. By the way, starches are just sugars that are connected together. And oddly enough, do you guys know what cellulose is? Fiber? You guys have heard of fiber before? The difference between fiber and starch is simply the angle of the bonds between the sugar molecules. We don't have enzymes that can break down cellulose. We only have an enzyme that will cut it one specific way. The cows, sheep, goats, everything that eats grass and hay and things like that, they actually have an enzyme that allows them to break down the fiber into sugars, which is why they're able to subsist on that, which is really kind of cool. So we had that enzyme, we could also eat grass, which is kind of wild. The difference literally, it has to do with either bend or straight, and that's the difference. It's kind of wild, but it's all made out of sugar. All right, includes starches and sugars. Those are carbohydrates. These are the fuels. Let's see. So you've got glucose, sucrose, fructose. Those are all sugar alcohols. Sugar, not alcohols. Sugars. Starches are made up of the basically they're a whole link of sugars put together. In fact, have you guys eaten those saltine crackers? You chew them and they start actually tasting a little sweet? Just a little? That's because the saliva in your mouth breaks down those starches into sugar. Which is kind of fun. Fun fact. All right, next one, proteins. Spell that again, didn't I? P-R, it's E-I. proteins are strings of amino acids. Amino acids include amino groups, carboxylic group. That's also another type of organic chemistry. But the proteins are what build your muscles, are what help repair your cells, what carry oxygen in your hemoglobin. That's a big protein. Proteins are basically building blocks for our bodies, which is kind of cool. Which is why a lot of people are saying you need to eat lots and lots of protein. Well, the protein you eat has to be broken down into amino acids so that your body can build the proteins that they actually need in your cells. So, eating amino acids is probably more important than the proteins themselves, if that makes sense. Because then your body has to break down the proteins.
So what is amino acids in foods?
Amino acids in foods? Good question. Let me look that up. I know you can get them from legumes and from grains. Amino acids in foods. Okay, they can be found in egg whites, in meat products, in legumes, and in grains, it looks like.
What is a legume?
Legume is a bean. Yeah. Beans. Mushrooms have it too, as it turns out. So beans, lentils, peanuts, soybeans, green beans, navy beans, you get the idea. Pinto, those are all contain amino acids in them. Buckwheat, quinoa, rice, soybeans, there's a whole list. Chickpeas, spinach, broccoli. Did I say eggs already? Brussels sprouts? No, sprouts. Sprouts in general, okay. Oats and seeds. That answers your question. Okay, so proteins. These are your building blocks for your cell. And the last one we have is DNA. Which, by the way, contains the information you need in order to build your proteins. That's where it's hidden. The code for your proteins are hidden in your DNA. Stores. Okay. So it stores your genetic information. It tells your body what traits to use and exhibit, what proteins produce, how long the cell is to live, which is kind of neat. Will actually die after a certain point because they can reproduce up to a certain point and then they die. It tells you when that happens, there's a whole bunch of information stored away in your DNA, which is kind of neat. And you guys talked more about that last year, if you remember. Okay. Chemistry is very interested in how those molecules link together, how the reactions take place, and how mutations take place. They're actually looking at the chemical process. They're very fascinated by that. In fact, many there's a special field that specifically focuses on these sort of things, and that is called biochemistry. It's the marriage of biology and chemistry, how the chemistry works in the biology, or the biology works in the chemistry, depending on how you look at it. So, very fascinating field, if you guys ever have a chance to look at that, if you're interested in that kind of thing. All right, any questions on this? Like I said, this is very broad, this is very general, this is not going into any specific detail. I'm just getting you guys familiar with the terms and that these things exist, all right? So today's assignment is on page 204, and we're doing 1 to 6.